Now this is the State of Florida versus George Zimmerman, case number 120F1083 CFA. First of all, Mr. O'Mara, your client is not in the courtroom. Are you waiving his appearance for this status, or I could have him brought in?
No, Your Honor, I'm waiving his appearance. I appreciate it if we are waiving his appearance.
All right. Essentially, this status is, at this time, it has come to my attention a certain matter, and based upon the canons and my obligations that I wish to disclose to the attorneys in this case and the parties. It's my understanding that Mr. Zimmerman had contacted Mark NeJame to represent him prior to you, Mr. O'Mara. As I've disclosed previously, my husband works with Mark NeJame. He does, however, practice only civil law. He's never practiced criminal law and does not practice at the criminal law at this time. But I did want to make both the parties aware pursuant to the judicial canons, and that way, under my obligations, I wanted to disclose it to you as soon as possible. So as I became aware is why I set this status hearing first thing this morning. And that way you all can decide how you wish to proceed. Is there any, Mr. O'Mara, you may wish to discuss that issue with your client. Otherwise, is there any other matter or anything that you wish to address at this time from either of the parties?
Your Honor, I actually had discussed a little bit of this with my client and had an opportunity to sort of further delve into Mr. NeJame's connection with the case. And not only had Mr. NeJame had contact with, been contacted, but he's had very significant contact with the Zimmerman family, was, of course, considering undertaking the representation and had some agreements in place that I'm not yet fully aware of, but some actual waivers or agreements in place based upon that contact with the Zimmerman family, I think even with Mr. Zimmerman, to allow some of those communications to still be discussed and talked about. Obviously, when Mr. NeJame decided to act more as an analyst and not to take on the case, he then had presented to the Zimmerman family my name, as well as a couple of others, and a few others, but had, from what I know now, sort of suggested that I might be the best choice, giving them other names as well. My concern is this. I think that Mr. NeJame is going to be extraordinarily active in how he both perceives and analyzes this case. He has told me in a couple of conversations I had with him, because I became more concerned about that when you were selected as the judge. And I truly anticipate that we're at the very early stages of it now, that his role is going to be quite significant as an analyst, and that it is going to be more and more difficult, I think, to maintain a proper separation between, quite honestly, your husband and his connection with the firm and Mr. NeJame's planned activist role as an analyst, and maybe beyond that, because of his connection with the family, again, that I haven't fully understood yet, but I think that there's the probability that there's going to be communication with the family and Mr. NeJame that will then maybe be forwarded as insight analysis, whether it be exclusive, whatever that may be. I'm not aware, but I'm very, very concerned that we're not going to be able to control that, and we might get a week or a month down the road and then have to address this very issue. So I actually talked to Ms. Corey about this morning, and before we heard anything about you setting up this conference. I talked to Ms. Corey about these exact issues and my concern with it, because I just feel with the scrutiny that the case has been under already, and just knowing the type of media scrutiny it's going to be under in the future, and particularly not just the media scrutiny, but the activist community scrutiny that we can anticipate to continue. I'm very concern is this is going to stay and become more problematic as we move forward.
Well, as indicated previously, I had indicated previously and disclosed the fact that I did learn when we met previously that he is the CNN analyst, is my understanding, or has a contract. Mark NeJame does directly, which is why I disclosed that at that time. So that way you could address those issues with your client as well as address them with each other. And this issue I became aware of as well recently, actually late yesterday after my jury trial, and is why I set this hearing this morning for you all to address. Now, if you do or choose to file a motion to disqualify me as the judge, of course, Mr. O'Mara, you realize that has to be filed in writing for me to address it. So I am disclosing these matters because I do realize that they are matters that need to be disclosed to the parties so that way they can address them in whichever manner that they choose to be possible or beneficial towards their case. So that's why I'm disclosing it based upon my obligations. And then you all can choose how you wish to proceed in the case at this time. If you do choose to file a motion, we do have the bond hearing set next Friday. I would prefer if you could possibly file any motions prior to that, so that way I have the opportunity to address it before we get too far into this case, realizing the circumstances.
Yeah, I fully understood in my conversation with Mr. Corey, our advisor, that I think that is imminent. I don't know that I cannot at least address the issue. I certainly hope, with all of the scrutiny of this case, to keep that as limited as I can, just because I would like to, and I'd like to keep the case moving forward in as positive a direction as we can. But I will talk to my client about that again. I've had the chance to talk to him about it. It's just more of a concern. It's just more of a concern as to what the effect would be on the case moving forward. So I'll talk to him, and certainly if the final decision is made, I think it has been, but if the final decision is made, then to motion, we'll try and get it back before you as soon as possible, hopefully by Monday, so that we can minimize the delay.
All right. I thank you, and if you do choose to file it, I will make sure and address it as soon as possible. I will be, as I previously indicated, not here for the majority of next week, as I'll be at the 5th District Court of Appeals. However, I will, if need be, come back in order to address this, because I understand the urgency that you all have for this case. If you do choose to, if you can do so as soon as possible. Otherwise, if there aren't any other issues that you all need to discuss, or Ms. Corey, if there's not any issues that you wish to address with this court, since I haven't heard from you at this time, if you all could then file the appropriate motion at the appropriate time, I'll get to it as soon as I can.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to say to Florida Bernie Delavion, we would obviously defer to Mr. O'Mara in terms of whether he wants to file a motion. We're not obviously filing a motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Delarion. Otherwise, if there's not any other matters to address, then at this time, Mr. O'Mara, I look forward to your hearing from your decision or seeing your decision as to how you choose to proceed, and then we can address it at that time. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week.